one is play with the
Michtav Eliyahu, Rav Dessler. So we're now in another chapter of Rav Dessler's book, and we spoke about happiness, we spoke about eternity, yeah? Now he speaks about a reward of a mitzvah is another mitzvah. Yeah, we heard in Hebrew it says mitzvah, goreret mitzvah. So he wants to understand, what does this mean? Mitzvah, when your person does a mitzvah, the reward is also a mitzvah. Yeah? He says the Mishnah on Avot states like this: one mitzvah induces another mitzvah. For the reward of a mitzvah is a mitzvah. Yeah? When a person does a mitzvah, he gets a mitzvah as a reward. This would appear to confirm that we have already realized that there is in fact no other reward in this world for a mitzvah beyond the fact that one mitzvah induces or draws down another. We have seen in the previous article why there can indeed be no reward for a mitzvah in this world, right? When you were not here, but you should listen to we have it recorded on YouTube. He says, why can't Hashem give us a reward in this world? Why? And over there we said, to sum up the class, that Hashem wants to give us millions of gallons of reward, and we only have a 16-ounce cup to receive it. Meaning, this world is unable to give us what Hashem wants to give us. And therefore, it's not that He doesn't want to give us the reward here. He cannot. There's no kli, there's no vessel that can accept this. There's nothing that in this world He can give us to reward this one little mitzvah. We said even putting a penny into the pushka, into the tzedakah box. So he says, indeed, the true reward is the very fact that God sanctifies us by His mitzvot and grants us the privilege of serving Him. Yeah. So there can be no other reward in this world which can even begin to compare with this. To think of a reward for a mitzvah in terms of worldly goods or materials, pleasures, is clearly wrong. Meaning, when we want to get reward materially, compensation for the fact that we did a mitzvah, we want to get a physical reward. He says it's wrong to think that way. Why? Why? Since in any case, these are most transient and illusionary. He says, whenever we get a physical thing, it's here today, it's gone tomorrow. Yeah? You can get a nice car now, but after 10 years, this car is chizi bekor. Yeah, you can have a delicious steak, but in 20 minutes, that steak is gone. Yeah? Even life itself, yeah, it's limited. Correct? So if a person is thinking to get a mitzvah, reward for mitzvah in a physical terms, he said it's all an illusion. So the great and incomparable reward bestowed on us by the Almighty can obviously be thought of only in spiritual terms. Yeah, the only way we could look at a reward is in spiritual terms. But this being the case, we must try to understand the meaning of the famous passage at the beginning of the second paragraph of Kriyat Shema, which reads like this. It says, but wait a second. If we say that there is no reward, so why in Kriyat Shema we read the following? He says, and it shall be that if you surely listen to my mitzvot, to love Hashem, your God, to serve Him with all your heart and with all your soul, then I will provide the rain of your land at its proper time, the early rains and the latter rains, and you will gather in your grains and your wine and your oil, and you will eat and you will be satisfied. It says here, we see that He's going to give us some kind of reward, satisfaction, sova, yeah? We read in this week's parasha. Huh? Oh, so he says, surely this seems to indicate that there is reward for mitzvah in this world. How can you say that there is no reward in this world for mitzvah? And not for mitzvot of lesser importance, if there are any such, but for the highest attainable spiritual achievements. Meaning, he says, not for a little mitzvah, putting a penny into the tzedakah box, which you can ignore. No. He says, to love Hashem your God and to serve Him with all your heart and all your soul. He says, look, it's saying, you're going to do with all your heart and all your soul, and yet you get reward. 1 second. He says, so what greater spiritual level is there than this? To serve Hashem with all your heart and with all your soul? And nevertheless, the divine response is, I shall bestow the rain on your land at the proper time. How are we to understand this apparent contradiction? This contradiction of, you tell me there is no reward, and yet Hashem says, for the highest reward, for the highest service of Hashem, to serve Hashem with all our heart and with all our soul, I'm going to give you reward. But we do not have to search very far for the answer. Why? Because Rambam has already revealed the secret in the 9th chapter of his Hilchot Teshuvah. And this is what it says. He says, Rambam already told us. He says, God has promised us in the Torah that if we will fulfill it with joy and with cheerful spirit and reflect on its wisdom continually, He, Hashem, will remove from us all those things that prevent us from fulfilling it, meaning the mitzvot, such as disease, war, famine, hunger, Meaning, if we serve Hashem with happiness, notice this happiness is very, very underlined many times, Hashem says, if you serve me with happiness, I will make sure that I'm going to clear away everything, disease, hunger, this working hard, so on and so forth, in order for you to do what? To do another mitzvah. You hear? So he says, and He will bestow on us those bounties which intensify our fulfillment of the Torah, such as plenty, peace, abundance, silver and gold, so that we shall not need to occupy ourselves all our days with the body's needs, but shall be free to imbibe wisdom and fulfill commandments, and so be worthy of a life of the world to come. He says, if you serve Hashem in happiness and you do whatever He says, I'm going to make sure that you're going to need everything in order to do what? In order to serve Hashem without any impediments, without any fences. So he says, if we reflect on this passage, we shall come to realize that Rambam has given us a most powerful insight into the true value of this world. We learned that what? We learned that the whole purpose of worldly well-being, as the Torah understands it, is not so that we may indulge in physical pleasures, no, but only in order to further aim of our holiness. He says that we are living here not to amass buildings and cars and everything. No. It's to amass holiness. Meaning everything that we do, we have to approach a higher and higher level of serving Hashem. All the good things that this world are there to serve the ends of holiness and for no other purpose. Meaning, we have cars, buildings, money, food, women, everything that we have is in order to further our direction into what? Into holiness. Try to do more mitzvot. Try to be more connected to Hashem. Try to do everything in order to come close to Hashem. It says this then is the meaning of a reward of a mitzvah is a mitzvah. There is no reward for a mitzvah in this world except the enhanced opportunity to do more mitzvot. All the worldly well-being that a tzaddik receives is for this sole end. Which means everything that Hashem gives us, everything, is to do one thing. In order for us to serve Him. Mitzvah, another mitzvah. Chesed, another chesed. So he says, it follows therefore that holiness inheres in all worldly matters, for they are all capable of being used for augmenting holiness. Wow. He says that, you know what? Everything that we do and everything there is in this world, it's for one purpose. In order for us to do something holy. So if you have this cucumber is for us to eat and be able to get whatever nutrients the cucumber has in order to serve Him. Water, drink in order to serve Him. Clothing in order to dress nicely so that it's not cold, not hot, so on and so forth, in order to serve Him. House in order to be protected from the rain, from the snow, so on and so forth, to raise a family, to have a wife, to have this, in order to serve Him. Meaning car, for me to sit down, to drive to the shul, in order to go, bring, this one here, shopping, food, kids to school, so on and so forth, in order to serve Him. So he says, they are the kelim, instruments of the holiness. So everything, your car, your house, your table, your fork, your spoon, they're all holy vessels. It says, in the holy temple, all the vessels, and indeed everything and anything that could serve the holy ends of the temple service, partook of holiness. Similarly, in the everyday world, everything, however worldly, has something of that same quality of holiness, since it is capable of being used for the holy purposes. This is the deep and wonderful significance of the well-known saying of our rabbis, to the effect that the table of a Talmid Chacham is like an altar, and his eating resembles like a korban. We heard this many times, right? Our table is like an altar, and our eating is like a korban. What does that mean? It means that when a person serves Hashem with everything that he has, every piece of furniture, utensil, everything money, it becomes holy. So therefore he says, eating for such a person is indeed a sublime scientific act, since it enables him to enforce his powers for the fulfillment of the Torah. Happy is the one who's unable to fulfill mitzvot such as these in holiness and purity. So he equals the vessels of the temple, which we're not allowed to use for no reason but the holiness, right? The same as our vessels that we use if we use them for holiness. Now look what he says. But we must take one step further, and we shall be forced to an amazing and even somewhat awesome conclusion. Anyone who used the temple vessels for improper purposes, that is, for any purpose other than the holy use, for which they were intended to, was guilty of the sin called me'ilah, misappropriation of sanctified property. And he needed atonement, like we just said right now. If a person takes a cup from the Beit HaMikdash, which was used in the service of Beit HaMikdash, and he says, you know what, I'm thirsty, and he drinks, he just did a big sin. If he did it on purpose, there's major consequences over there. If he did it accidentally, he has to bring korban, so on and so forth, He has to pay the amount of used. But anyway, so he's saying, on our analogy, it follows that whoever derives pleasure or benefit from anything in the world for his own selfish purpose is guilty of the sin of misusing holy objects. Wow. You hear what he says? He says if you have a big house, you could have a big house, no problem. You bring in people who are Talmidei Chachamim, you bring shiurim, you bring your kids over there, your wife, Torah, so on and so forth. You're good. You use your house very nicely. But if you're having parties, senseless parties, hello, so we have a birthday party, come. Hello, we're having a boys' night out here tonight, Oh, come, poker night. He says, you know what you're doing? Pool party. He says, you know what you're doing? Me'ilah. You're using property that's holy in the service of your personal needs. And this we can go by everything. Your car, your clothing, your every single thing that you're using. Not for holy purposes, guess what? You're stealing. You're using it in the wrong way. So he says, as soon as he uses it for his own bodily pleasure, instead for the purpose of enhancing his fulfillment of mitzvot, he has diverted it from its true function. This is a revolutionary idea which must make any responsible person pause for a moment and think. Can you imagine what he says? People say, no, I made all the money that I have. And if I could buy a yacht and cruise on the yacht and do my shtiot things, guess what, my friend? No way. The money that you were given, the yacht that you were given, the big house that you were given, the cars that you were given, all the things that you were given, guess what? It was given in order for you to be gearing them towards holiness, some sort of a holy matter. So he says, with this insight, we may better understand a puzzling Gemara in Ketubot, which describes a point in term of the last hours of the Tana Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, who is known throughout our history as Rebbe, and who was called among all the Tanaim and Amoraim, Rabbeinu HaKadosh. Says, we have a little Gemara in Ketubot of the last hours of Rebbe. Rebbe is the one who formulated all the Mishnayot, He took all the oral Torah of the Mishnah, which was not allowed to be written, and he wrote it down in the book of Mishnayot, and from here came the Gemara of the explaining of this Mishnayot. He was called Rabbeinu HaKadosh. Not only was a big Talmid Chacham, he was also a billionaire. He was a very rich man. If he was here today, he'd probably outwin Bill Gates and all the whatchamacallit. And listen to what he says over there. He says, when Rebbe was about to die from this world, he stretched out his 10 fingers towards heaven and said, Master of the universe, Ribono Shel Olam, you know well that I have labored in Torah with all my 10 fingers, and that I have not derived pleasure from this world, even to the extent of my little finger. Wow. He says, may it be your will that peace shall reign over my rest. You know what he says? This is a multi-billionaire. He's telling Hashem, he's right before he's dying. He said, you, that all these 10 fingers, I used not anything, not even my little pinky for myself. I used the for Kedusha. Now, I don't know if you know, but if I'm not wrong, it used to say they used to eat on golden table. His table used to be solid gold. He used to have solid gold and silver utensils. Yes. So how can you say that? How could you say I didn't have any pleasure from this world?
Yeah, they were contradicting this.
Oh, no contradiction.
Question.
One second. We're recording.
Poor people was not
One second. We're recording. He says, from the form of the rabbi's request, it implies that if he had derived any benefit from any of the good things that the Almighty had bestowed on him, something might have been deficient in his internal rest. You hear what he's saying? He's saying, Hashem, you know that I didn't partake anything for myself. And please, let me be in peace. He's saying, you know what? That means if you use something not in this form, guess what? He would not be in peace. We're talking about in the world to come. And remember, we said in the world to come, eternity. Yeah? So he says like this, at first glance, it is not easy to see why this should be so. We know that Rebbe was an extremely rich man. Are we to assume that God had given him all those riches with the intention that he should not derive pleasure or benefit from them? What is that? Why'd you make him rich? He's not supposed to benefit from them? What then were they for? But the meaning is now clear. Rabbeinu HaKadosh had attained the level at which he realized that everything in this world is created for the purpose of sanctifying Hashem's name. And the verse says, all that is called by my name, by my Hashem's name, and that is created for my glory, I have formed it and molded it too. This is the interpretation by rabbis to mean that God has created, He created everything for His glory, meaning for Hashem's glory. And therefore, what's God's glory? The fulfillment of the Torah and Mitzvot. Rebbe understood that all the riches that had been bestowed upon him existed for no other purpose than the furtherance of holiness. Meaning Rabbi Yehuda Nasi understood that everything he had was not for him. It was not to chill and this and that. No. It's to serve Hashem, to become more holy. Oh, so he says, if he used them for anything else, he would be held accountable for the misuse of objects dedicated to holy purposes. And his taking from this world was for the ends of holiness and for the needs of heaven. For him, everything without exception was for the sake of heaven. And he knew no other than that. Yeah. So meaning, when he ate on the golden table, it means he brought the rabbis into the table to show them that, I'm respecting you and so on and so forth. Yeah? Meaning poor people, to show them how it is to have kavod and eat with golden vessels and so on and so forth. Meaning everything that he did, he knew one thing,
Just as a tool.
Hashem. That's why when we do something, we have to say, okay, me going to Bahamas, what is there in holiness in Bahamas, right? If it's to deliver a Sefer Torah over there and, you have no choice, as we've seen recently, someone bought a Sefer Torah over there. Okay, there's people who go there for alternative motives, but they need a Sefer Torah to daven, no? They want to daven in a minyan with the Sefer Torah there. Okay, we can understand that. But stam to go there and waste your money, waste your time, guess what? We're going to have an accounting after 120 years of why I did this. And you know what? If we did it for ulterior motives, we have to pay for it. And guess what? The payment is an eternal payment. There's no end to the fact that you're going to be paying for this. Now listen to this. He says, I anticipate a question here. I know precisely what you want to ask. Is it true then, you wonder, that one who chooses the way of the Torah and wants to follow the paths of the tzaddikim will have no share at all in all the good things that this world has for him? Meaning, okay, so what? I'm not allowed to now, enjoy the world? Life seems so desirable, so pleasant. Is the one who chooses Torah compelled to renounce all this? And in that case, will his life be worth living? He says, so what? If I want to follow Hashem, that means I have to take myself away from everything? No fancy car, no home, no this, no clothing, no nothing? How is that? Oh, what's living then? What's the point of living? He says, but our reply must be like this. You're mistaken, my dear questioner. Our pleasure are far greater than theirs. Yeah? Their pleasures are illusionary. They may imagine that they're enjoying life, but it is not so. In fact, their life is not worth living. They have no satisfaction from their pleasures that are just illusionary. Meaning he's saying people who don't follow the Torah, their pleasure is illusionary. And we can see by so many people who are miserable, that are rich, they have everything, they have money, they have glory, they have everything, but yet they're miserable. He says when they have one thing, they want the next. When they have the next thing, they want the other thing. You hear? When he has everything, he looks at another person and says, well, but he's got more than me, and he's got fancier me, and therefore he's miserable because he wants what he has. So it says, they chase after illusionary pleasures, and they attain them at most only partially and very temporarily. If you understand what it means to be hungry for lust, lust is very temporary. Meaning, I'm lusting for this. Once I drank it, I'm finished. Now I'm lusting for the next thing. You hear? It's a very temporary thing that you can ease your lust, because as soon as that 5, 10 minutes, 1 hour passes, your lust for the next thing starts building up. So for the most part, their lives are spent in pursuing that which they can never attain. Can you imagine trying to attain happiness that doesn't exist? Meaning, we said before that happiness is only when a person is tranquil with what he has. And we spoke in the two sessions ago, what means happiness. So if we're trying to pursue something that we cannot get, like I want to be like Trump, for instance, right? Example. Can I ever become like Trump? Maybe. No, I can't. Because it's Trump's inheritance and the power and so on and so forth in such a small period of time. I can try to become Trump. I'm going to make myself crazy to become Trump. Yeah, who wants to be like him? But I'm just saying, could I become Bill Gates? You hear what I'm saying? It's impossible to become Bill Gates. If Hashem wants, he can do whatever he wants. Yeah, but would he want to curse me like that? Would he want to curse me like Bill Gates?
That you say he wants to be like him. Right?
So he says, our lot is the fattened in pleasures. Spiritual pleasures are real, permanent, and fully attainable. When a person has spiritual pleasure, what seeks pleasure? It's our minuchat hanefesh, meaning when we are tranquil inside, we don't need anything. We don't need no vacation. We don't need no restaurant. I like it. I'm peaceful at home with my kids, with my wife. I'm okay. I don't need any of this shtuyot to go around in order to make myself pleasant. If you do need that, there is no end for that. Why? Because from one you're going to jump to the other. From the other you're going to jump to the other. Why? There's never to attain that true inner peace. So he says, we are continuously happy with all the many gifts that Hashem showers on us in His great kindness. We're able to follow the precept of our rabbis and express our gratitude to God for every measure that He metes out on us. We have so much to be grateful for when we consider all the goodness and love that He bestows upon us continuously without interruption. Imagine when a person eats, and he ate nice, drank, he's happy. My family's healthy, Baruch Hashem. Everything is fine. He looks at what's going on in the world out there, and he's thinking, wow, thank God I don't have this type of a child, or this type of or this type of a disease, or this type of thing, right? He's happy with what he has, and therefore he's constantly thanking Hashem, thank you for whatever I have. So he says, this too is a deeper meaning of the blessing we find in Kriyat Shema, which we quoted earlier, right? And you will eat and you will be satisfied. To be satisfied is the highest and best of all the blessings. There is in the whole of existence no one who is truly satisfied with worldly achievements. One who pursues the pleasure of his world never attains them to the extent that he would like. Meaning, he's saying that there is never a person who will be satisfied with something worldly. Yeah, because when he wants, like I said, when he I want to be a millionaire, he gets a million. It's like, no, I need 10. When he gets 10, he's like, let's do 20. You hear? And like that, it just goes on and on and on, yeah? When a person is not married, what's he thinking? I need a woman. He gets married and he's thinking, that one is better. When he gets that one, he's like, no, she looks much better. You hear? So it's a constant hungry eye type of thing, yeah? Where we're not satisfied if it's physical. However, when it's spiritual, when you get into a spiritual bliss, spiritual happiness, you relax. You know what you say? This is what Hashem wants me to have. This is the wife Hashem wants me to have. This is the food He wants me to eat. Meaning, I'm happy with that. Only the one who sets spiritual happiness as his goal, who sees that in all worldly matters only means the end, who in truth and sincerely desires nothing but the service of Hashem, he is the one who is satisfied with God's bounty. He is perpetually filled with happiness in this world. Meaning, when a person knows that everything is governed by Hashem, everything, the small accident, the fact that your wife didn't cook, the fact that you hit your leg, the fact that you cannot make enough money, the fact that meaning everything, if he knows, that's what Hashem wants. Am I going to argue what Hashem wants? He's the one who created me. He's the one who's going to take me after 120 years. He's the one who says that everything that you have because I want you to have. Yeah? So therefore, are we going to have any questions on that? We're going to say, okay, Baruch Hashem. If I go open my store and I got zero, you know what I'm saying? That's exactly what Hashem wants. The next day, if I have some sales, that's exactly what Hashem wants. You hear? If my business goes down, that's exactly what Hashem wants. I guess He has something else planned for me. You hear? Chas v'sholom, yeah, if somebody loses somebody, that's exactly what Hashem wants. And we've seen people who got up on the podium and said, you know what? I'm not happy that my daughter or son or father or mother left. But you know what? That's exactly what Hashem wants. And I accept the fact that Hashem did this to me. Yeah? This is true feeling of somebody who is spiritually connected to Hashem and knows that everything that Hashem does, it's for this point. Finally, one last point. Once we have reached this point, we're able to understand the Mishnah, which tells us that the only rich man is the one who's happy with his lot. In the first of these articles, we already raised this question. What kind of person is this one who's satisfied with his lot? Is he one who has no ambition, no desire? Yeah, lot meaning what he has. Yeah, so he says, is it a person that has no ambition and no desire? Yeah, does it mean a person has no ambition or desire? It says, in that case, whatever he has will hold no attraction to him. How can we call him rich if he has no pleasure from his possessions? And anyway, how can he be happy with what he has if he lacks the many things that others have? If he is human, he will surely want them too. So how can he possibly be satisfied with the little that he has? Yeah? Meaning, how can we say the person has little is going to be satisfied? But now we know the answer. That wonderful insight that we attained shows us how wide of a mark our questions are. Of course, the man who is satisfied with his lot is that happy person who has made spiritual attainment the goal of his existence, of course. He desires material things only as aids to achieve that end. We're not saying that a person should not desire. No, as a tool. Yes, I need a car in order for me to be able to drive my kids to school, drive myself to shul, do some chesed, drive maybe some, students, Talmidei Chachamim, to wherever they need to go, right? He therefore is able to thank God for every single item that God has given him to help him on his trip towards spiritual goals. He is always happy because every measure that God meets out with him, he can find an opportunity to come closer to him. Meaning, everything that happens to him, I get a ticket, oh, it's Hashem. I get hit by the car, it's Hashem. I just bought a new car, somebody scratched it, it's Hashem. What? Can I prevent this? No. How can I prevent it? Can I be a policeman? One second. When we finish, you can answer the question. Yeah? So the pure service, he comes closer to his destination, which is to serve Hashem the Almighty. For him, everything is good. He realizes that any experience in his own life, that everything the Almighty One does is for the good. The All-Merciful One, the source of all mercy, sends us nothing that cannot be used for good. One who, deep in his heart, sees and feels this goodness is always happy with his lot. He is the truly happy one in this world. He attains the greatest of all rewards, the reward of mitzvah for another mitzvah. Meaning, anything that Hashem sends you is for the good. Chas v'shalom, right? If you see a person in your family sick, and he's dying, and at the end he dies, he said, that's for the good. How? How is that? He said, that's good for you. Why? Because through this, you will be able to learn something, whatever that is. Yeah, we have to each work on ourselves to be able to connect to Hashem. To know that, everything is governed by Hashem. So we don't think that we can attain something. There was a guy who came to me recently on Friday, yeah? By the way, I was telling you guys, yeah? A person could work, 10 hours, 8 hours, and Hashem could give it to him even in 2 hours, yeah? This past Friday, I went to work very late. I got there 12, or usually I get there 11. Yeah, and I close at 3. So what happens? From 12 to 1, nobody there. From 1 to 2:30, so many people came that I probably did more than I did in 2 weeks. Why? Hashem was telling me that what I was telling you here, that if Hashem wants, He can give it to you from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Be'emet, He can do that. We just have to have the bitachon, the emunah in Hashem that He can do that. So therefore, everything that we go through, everything that Hashem gives us, is, guess what? It's only for the good. We just have to realize it and get spiritually connected to Him to understand that it really is good. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen.